Guys, so in the previous video, we loaded our data into this data table via Power Query in Excel. Now, if we look at click on Data tab and click on Queries and Connections, you can see on the right side that this here is the connection to that particular data set, right? It has columns A to CC, which is 81 columns, and there are 22,050 rows. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to do some data quality check on this data set. So we go to create a new sheet called quality, and I've done some of it here, but I'm going to walk you through what we did here. So in the first A1 cell, I'm going to repeat what I did here in column E just to show. Basically do like equal rows, open bracket, and you're going to point to the table on the other tab. So once you have this in the cell, you click on the other tab, data V7. You click on cell A1. Okay, that's going to pull in the data table into the formula. Okay, now at this point you hold down Control Shift and we're going to select the entire table, right? So Control Shift down arrow and right arrow. Okay, so do Control Shift down arrow, right arrow, still holding Control Shift down. Now let go of Control Shift and then I just click Enter. Okay, so that basically pulled in the entire table, and it tells us that there are 22,050 rows in the table. And if you want to see the formula for this cell, just put equal formula text and point to cell E1, and that shows us the formula that we used. Okay, so that's the number of rows. Now, how many columns do we have in the data set? We're going to do the same thing. Now, this time we just do equals columns, open bracket, click on data V7, click into the table, do a control home, go to cell A1, do control shift down and across. You select all of it. I think there's another way too, like if you just do control home, you go to cell A1. I think if you do control shift star, control shift 8. Okay, no, that didn't work. Okay, never mind. So just to do control home, go to, you're anywhere here, you do control home, you go to A1, do control shift down and across, and let go of control shift, then press enter. Okay, you get 81. Okay, then equals formula text, point to E1, you get that formula there. Okay, so we have 22,050 rows, we have 81 columns. If we do then equal number of rows times number of columns, you get the number of cells, right? Again, show formula text of this. So just multiplication of the two, you get what? 1.786 million cells. That's how big our data set is. Okay, so now if we're going to do like now we want to count how many of these 1.786 million cells actually have a value in it. Then we do a count A, right? Count A, if you select count A, see it counts the number of cells in the range that are not empty. Okay, so not empty. So count A, and again, select, go to the other data tab, click anywhere in the table, do Control Home, Control Shift down across, let go of Control Shift, press Enter. Okay, so we have almost 1.75 million, right? So some of them are empty, some of them are empty. So this, uh, formula text of this count A is basically not empty. Okay, so how do you get the empty ones? Instead of count A, you do equals count blank, right? And then you again click on the data tab, anywhere in the table, do Control Home, go to cell A1, Control Shift, hold it, press down arrow, right arrow, let go of Control Shift, press Enter. Okay, you got 32,000 blank cells. Okay, let's look at the formula text for this. Okay, that's what we did. So these are the number of empty uh, cells we have. So just to double check, if we add these two up, check and balance, right, you get the same number of cells which we got earlier when we multiplied the rows and columns. Okay, so the text of this is just the sum of those two. Okay, so we have an idea of we know that there are blank and empty cells, but how do we get, you know, how do we know where the blank uh, values are in the data set? So we'll just put we'll create a list of the column names. We know that there are 81, right? So I'm going to put a 0 here in cell E1, and then um, in the cell below, I'm going to do equals offset offset. Press the down arrow, select, move it back up to E10, which is the cell itself. What it does is it's going to offset itself by one row, comma, -1. So it's going to offset by -1 row, which is the one above it, and then comma, offset by 0 columns. So it's going to point to that 0 in cell E9. All right. So then I'm going to add 1 to it, +1. Okay, that's just a way of using offset by referencing itself. Uh, so if I do copy and I paste it down a few, it basically adds 1 to the cell directly above it. So one way of doing it, but of course you could just as well do equals the cell above it +1. But the difference is if you start deleting rows and all, number gets messed up. So one way to do it is to offset, use this formula, right? So it's always going to refer to the cell above it, right? So if I insert one row here, then okay, now it's referring to uh, if I put like a 4 here, it's always going to refer to the one above it. Okay, then I'm going to delete this row again. Okay, everything goes back because I have that offset formula there instead of just pointing to. Okay, anyway, I can create this list from 0 all the way down to 81. Okay, this is basically to number the columns. Then we're going to put the column names here. So what I did here was to transpose the data in row 1 of the data. So if you just do like an equals transpose, open bracket, click on the data tab, uh, click anywhere in the table, do Control Home. Basically, you just click on row 1 here, and then press Enter. Okay, it basically fills everything up. Yeah. If for some reason it doesn't, then you just F2 into the formula, do a Control Shift Enter, right? And it populates the, okay, here in this case it filled up you filled up the entire array, right? If we don't want it to do that, we can just select where we want to fill it up to, do F2, put the formula in, do Control Shift Enter, right? So you control where you want it to fill up, okay? So you select this, Control Shift arrow down, then hold on to Shift, continue moving down all the way to the 81st row, do an F2. So you're editing the formula, do Control Shift Enter. Okay, that fills up all the, then you have all the column names here. Double click on column F, then the edge of it to expand it. Okay, so you see all of this. Then we add another count blank just to count how many blank items we have in each. So the way it's done here is you could do like equals count blank and then just point to data VO7, say, put it at cell A1, Control Shift down. So that will select the data table and the column for month. Then click enter. So that's done, but I can't just copy this down to the next one because it's still gonna say month, but I actually want it to say movement pair, which is the second column, right? So how can we create that formula? So actually we can wrap it in text and indirect, which is what is done here, right? So I'm going to just copy this formula over here, and the way it's done is basically we put the entire formula into indirect and double quotes. So maybe I'll go back again. I'll start from where we. So here we have count blank. Okay, start to make some spaces between. So here it refers to the table, but um, we want to convert it to text. So we're going to put double quotes around that. So we tell Excel this is text. But if I do enter now, it's not going to recognize the formula because count blank needs to take in a table and not a text. So what you need to do is to tell Excel that we want to evaluate this text as an actual address. So we have to use indirect around it. So indirect around that text. Now if you click enter, okay, that works. That works. Okay, maybe I'll do the example on a column where we actually have some missing data. Okay, so I'm gonna just repeat those steps for count blank. Let's do it here for column 31 where we know we have some empty blank data. So I'm going to do equals count blank, right? I'm going to go select a column for this 12 days, right? So I'm going to go select, mm, I believe it's this column. Nope, wrong one. Okay, it's it's column 31. So column 31 is found the columns. Column 31 is column AE. Okay, so try again. Equals to count blank. Then I click on the data, go to column AE, select the header, Control Shift, arrow down. Oh, see a lot of blank cells. Arrow down doesn't go all the way down, so I have to page down, page down. Like, yeah, it's not contiguous. Okay, I need to get all the way down to page down. Okay, so I get to the last row, click enter. Okay, so I get 4,971 blank, data sets, blank entries in the column. So again, I go into the bracket. I put some spaces between it so I can see clearly this is what the address is pointing to, the table. I put double quotes around. Okay, now if I click enter, it's not going to recognize that text. All right. So what Excel needs is it needs a table into the count blank function. So you put an indirect around the text. Okay, so it's going to say go to this address and get whatever it is. So it brings the column into the count blank. Click enter here. Now you get 4971, so it's correct. Then once we know that it's still correct, we have a text here that we can control. So this text string here can be broken up. I'm just going to put some spaces so it's clear. So we have this text string here that represents the address. Then we have the column name here. So I'm just going to split up the column name. So I'm going to split up the string by putting a double quotes, the ampersand and a double quotes. So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I'm just splitting up the string into two strings. I click enter. The formula still works. Now I go back into the formula. I'm going to split the right end of the column. Right. Again, I put a double quote, ampersand, double quote. So if I click enter, it should still work. Okay, still works. I have 4971. So what's happening here is I'm breaking up that address string into, I'm going to put some spaces here so you can see that you have this first part of the string here. You have the ampersand, you have the second part of the string here, which is exactly the column name. Then you have ampersand, and then you have the third part of the string here. Okay, everything is working. I click enter. Now, what's convenient now is that we have this column name here in a string. And we already have that. We can just point that to the value in the column F, right? So I go into the formula, I select this part, and then I just click on F, uh, the value next in the column right to its left, immediately to its left. Click. Okay, so now it's pointing to F40. So with that, it should be able to still get the click enter. Okay, it still gets 4971. So now we have a formula, okay? We have a formula. I'm just going to color it blue. We have that formula. We can just copy that formula and just paste it everywhere else. See, you get all the values here. So this one now points to the other, to the column name. So after we do this, we basically can paste that formula everywhere in here to count the number of blank. Uh, okay. Um, if we do that, oh, we notice, okay, here there is another problem. This particular column name contains square brackets. Okay, so what do we have to do to the square brackets? We actually have to do an escape character on a square bracket. So what we have to do for the right square bracket here is, if you zoom in here, the way it works here is we actually did a substitute here on square bracket, and we put a little apostrophe before the square bracket. Okay, so we got to do that. It's just more inconvenient if your column name has a square bracket in it, but if you do, there's still a way to fix that. So we go into this formula, and we're gonna look at this particular F60. Okay, we're gonna put a substitute around it. Okay, substitute F60, open bracket F60, right, and comma. The old text would be double quotes, right square bracket, double quotes, comma, and replace it with double quotes open, the apostrophe, and then the square bracket again, and then close the quotes, and then close the bracket. Okay, so we're doing a substitution. Anytime we have a right square bracket, we just replace it with a right square bracket, but with a little apostrophe in front of it. Okay, then you click enter. Okay, the formula works, so that's okay. So this updated formula can be just copied and pasted across the whole thing, right? So now you have a formula that works for all the column names, and it tells you how many blank values there are in each column. So it gives you an idea. Next step is to probably investigate why those values are blank and what you want to do with it. Okay, but we've come to the end of this video where we check the data quality.